This is the first installment episode performance of Between the Notes, which is a live monthly series that I'm fortunate enough to host in conjunction here with the Wild Goose. We're going to be interviewing musicians, very talented musicians like Micah Schnabel, who's our first guest tonight, and we're going to be doing this once a month, and next month we're going to be interviewing and listening to Lydia Loveless. That's August 11th. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Micah Schnabel.
How y'all doing? I'm really happy to be here and be the first guest. So I think this is a great idea. This is a song about a rocky relationship and screwing things up a bit. Probably should have married you when I had the chance. Made a blonde-haired little baby, got a job and quit the band I hope you understand. I'll teach you to play piano, you could teach me how to feel. You could tear apart this wooden boy and maybe make him real. He'll make me real. Hook, line, can see. With these poets and their poisons, they are always hand in hand. And Dorothy, I am just your friend.
Sort of your performance history. When did you come to Columbus?
October of 2000.
And did you know Shane Sweeney at that time?
No.
How did you meet him?
It's kind of embarrassing. The old BW3s on High Street. We were both there playing open mic night. And we both played a Tim Easton song, and that was kind of like, we ended up talking outside, and it was his birthday actually, and I was like, oh, I have a band. He was like, oh, I hate bands. He's like, or he knows, I never want to be in a band. I would never be in a band. But then we ended up seeing each other around at these shows, and I just asked him, I was like, I know you don't want to be in a band, but would you want to play bass with us, you know? And of course, he was like, yeah, man. But I've never played bass before. So I was like, don't worry about it. So we just got together, and we just started becoming friends. We just really liked each other. So we were like, we'll figure out the bass. There's only 4 strings on it. We can figure that out. You know, so we had one laying around at the house, so we just started practicing.
And you still play with Shane today?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, what was your first tour? You were 19 years old.
Yeah.
Where was that?
The very first run we ever did was Paw Paw, Michigan, I think was the first show. Paw Paw in Lawton, Michigan. And I mean, they were terrible. They were terrible, terrible shows. There's nobody there. We, you know, played for 15 minutes and they turned our amps off and told us to go home.
So what inspired you? I mean, you get your amps turned off after 15 minutes. Most people would say, screw this, I'm going home. What spawned an addiction from that?
I have no idea. Like, I hear people talk about it and it sounds totally reasonable. You know, they're like, man, we went out for 3 days or went out for 2 weeks and every night was terrible. Nobody was there. You know, we didn't make any money. And I hear the whole thing, I'm like, but don't you love it? You know, I don't know. It was never a conscious thing. I was just hooked. And I guess, I mean, it's the healthiest addiction, I guess, that I could have. But I mean, it's my addiction. I don't know what made it click, you know, but it did.
So after getting that started and getting that bug, where did you find your favorite places to play?
Early on, the Chicago and St. Louis, because those were, you know, we started out kind of regionally, you know, and those were 2 of the first towns where we started clicking. And we started seeing people, and people there excited to see us, and returning faces, and crowds are getting bigger. And those were the first 2 towns that really started happening for us, and we started to see a little bit of success.
Mm-hmm. And you've been all over the United States.
Yeah.
How do the regions differ when you go to, you know, if you go to Northeast United States
Right.
as opposed to going down to Florida?
Right. We talk about this a lot, but the Northeast, people watch like this. even if they're loving it, they could be loving it, having a great time. But if you're in Boston, you could have 400 people there, and they're just this. And you're like, man, what am I doing? What can I do to like, and then you get done, and you're sitting there selling t-shirts and buying, everybody's buying stuff, and like, oh, that was great. You're like, what was this? But, and then this, down the coast, as you move down the coast, the Carolinas get a lot friendlier, and it starts, getting that southern thing a little bit more, and it eases up pretty much from there. We do pretty well in like Florida and stuff now, and it pretty much from go, everybody was very friendly there. The Northwest happened a lot quicker, and I don't know why. Maybe again, almost like the European thing, like they're like, they see this little band from Ohio has made their way, to Portland or Seattle. It adds a little bit of legitimacy, and but the West happened a lot quicker for us, and we were lucky to have made some friends in the East and Midwest, bringing them through, and then they brought us out there. But especially like the Portlands and Seattles, from the when the '90s thing happened, they still take their music very seriously and consider themselves a music town, and it shows. Like there are people out. People are going out to shows every night. You can play there on a Tuesday night and still have 300 people at a show. And then as you move down that coast, you get into California, and it's a wash. You can play LA. I don't know. You can go play LA. I don't want to do it. We've done it, a million times, and we've had good and bad shows, but it's the same thing every time. And PBRs are $6, and it's, you get 2 drink tickets, and and then they take the first 20 people through the door, and so you rarely make any money, and it's just not my scene, I guess. So, and then the Midwest, I think we all know the Midwest.
Well, I'm curious, as someone who's been all around the United States and in Europe, how do Ohio kids respond to shows?
Ohio kids, we're just very Midwest. They've got that kind of working class, kind of pride themselves on the blue collar thing, which is good, but hasn't really helped us very much. I don't really understand why, but Ohio is not good to us. We just don't do very well.
How did the crowds receive you in Europe?
Over there, it's pretty strong. Things happened much quicker over there from the first time that we ever went. We were making money, and staying in hotels and stuff like that. Whereas over here, we're struggling. I think just it adds legitimacy, the fact that you've made it that far. So people are much more willing to check you out, and over there, there's just a lot more consideration for the arts and stuff like that. So for the things that we do, and so there's just a lot more money in it, And you roll into a town, we pulled into Belgrade, Serbia, and there was a full 12-foot billboard, 2 Cow Garage tomorrow night, and it was just, it was amazing. But it's just viewed differently there,
How do you go about doing the business to set up a tour in Europe?
We got lucky kind of early on. We had some friends that helped us out with that and introduced us to a European agent at South by Southwest. And he came out and saw us and liked us. And we got an offer in Ireland that paid for the whole trip, all the expenses. So everything was good. So that kind of, supported the whole tour, because those 2 shows paid for all the expenses. So that was the first time over, and that's how it kind of happened.
You mentioned in Europe there's more appreciation for the arts. How is that shown besides just maybe getting more pay at a gig?
I don't know. Yeah, anybody that's ever played in a bar here in the United States knows that for most of the places you walk into, you walk up to the bartender and you're like, I'm in the band, I'm playing tonight, and they're like, great, throw your stuff in the corner, leave me alone, Mm-hmm. Whereas there, you walk into a club and you're the artist, and they have somebody there to take you to your green room and that's, you know, there's food and the booze and everything, and it's all filled up, and they have people to load your stuff in for you, or at least help, and yeah, you're just treated as an artist. You're not just the jerk playing the bar that night, you know, and yeah, it's a completely different mindset.
So let's blame it on geography, Kentucky and Tennessee, tearing you away from me tonight. Every word I try to say from 700 miles away, but you were just calling to say goodbye. Let's blame it on geography, blame it on geography, blame it on geography, blame it on geography. You were just calling to say goodbye.